Scorpio is fixed water. You need to burn this ice with awareness. Venus in Scorpio. What's Venus? Venus is the planet of love, appreciation, value, self-worth, relatability, harmony. Scorpio is fixed water. They fixate on their emotions so that they can discover what that emotion is trying to convey, and that's how they transform. Scorpio in Venus of Ba is a detriment there, meaning that it doesn't like to be there. Venus rules Taurus, which is the opposite sign of Scorpio. When Scorpio wants to act based on their own emotions and perceive things based on that lens, they're blocking themselves from loving, appreciating, and valuing things because they're too clogged inside. And that's how and why Pluto comes from the external and transforms them. Because Pluto is a generational asteroid and a dwarf planet, so Pluto comes in waves of generations. It comes from the outside. Mars comes from the inside. That's why Scorpio is both ruled by Mars and it's ruled by Pluto. Pluto is correlated with the god Hades, which is the god of the underworld. Everything that deals with the shadow has to do with Scorpio. Each water sign expresses the element differently. Venus is how do we express our love for things around us, for people around us, and for ourselves. Venus is the second planet closest to the Sun. The Sun is the conscious aspect of ourselves, aka what are we acting towards in this life. So Venus is mostly the moon's clutch because it speaks to the unconscious. It's the bridge. Mercury too and Mars too. They're all internal energies. Venus harmonizes. Having Venus in Scorpio, you appreciate deep, occult things. You want to merge with someone deeply. You want to emotionally bond and transform with someone. Venus is also how do we relate to our partner. Venus also rules Libra, the opposite zodiac from Aries. So Aries is the self, Libra is how we relate that self. How do we relate with other people and connect. Scorpios have the ability to go within and understand their shadow because they have no other choice. That's their gift. They have this psychological ability to perceive things and intuit in the present because they're fixed, and their opposite sign is Taurus, fixed earth. So how do you ground your sense of self? The first house. The second house is grounding that sense of self, embodying that sense of self. Scorpio is transforming that sense of self with someone else. So they always want to merge with someone, with something, or with themselves. So they go through all of those steps to circle back within them. Let's break down both the energy of Venus that comes from within us, literally from our sacral chakra, which is down the heart between the spleen. Taurus is ruled by Venus, and Taurus is correlated with the throat chakra. So how do we communicate? How do we use our vocal cords? Physiologically, how do hormones cycle? How do we fertilize our own unique soil? That's the bull, symbolically. When we understand the practical, stubborn nature of Taurus, we can get a better understanding of why Scorpios are so deep. They want to merge with you. That's what allows them to really go in depth into who they are. They need someone they can trust. They're more the warriors first, which is they're inside, they're fixated with the water, whereas Aries, that is also ruled by Mars, is cardinal with the fire, with the creation. That's why Aries is exalted in the sun. Whereas Scorpio, it is said that it's exalted in Uranus because Uranus is the planet of change and originality, and Scorpios, they don't like other people to know about themselves. They're very mysterious. They are fixed with their water, so they have to trust you to tell you about their life, and they go through so many things that they transform people, and that's their gift. They have to do something exciting, thoughts, feelings, and emotions, the things that we don't see. Scorpios are the best detectives of energy, whereas Pisces, they can feel everyone's energy. They can love for everyone because they understand the collective unconscious. They're swimming. Pisces are ruled by Neptune and Jupiter. So Pisces understand emotions in a more philosophical way. Scorpios dive into emotions and fixated with the water. Pisces is swimming constantly. Scorpios can sometimes stagnate in emotions until they understand it. Pisces can be flighty with themselves because they understand themselves through others. That's why Pisces exalt in Venus and is at fault in Mercury. Because Mercury is the planet of communication, facts, details, the everyday things, routines, the things that Pisces don't want to put their mind into because they're too busy dreaming. But if they don't put that dream into a practical routine, they're not going to get anywhere. They're going to stay stuck in the mind. So Scorpios, for instance, have the ability to cut through the BS emotionally and help Pisces come back to reality. Venus rules both Libra and Taurus. Taurus would be the yin sign, aka your self-worth. How do you care and root your body? And then Libra is how do you externalize your sense of self, so you can relate with the world, with other people, and with yourself in an external, harmonious way, where you are the diplomat of your environment, initiating and creating communication, so you can relate and harmonize your environment based on your ability to relate and to harmonize the way that other people perceive things, and that's what makes you lawyers, a diplomat. Then the opposites of Libra and Tauro, Aries is ruled by Mars. Aries is cardinal fire. How do you create? I am. And Scorpio is fixed water. So how do you cycle your emotional depth, aka your emotional baggage? Whatever you haven't seen about yourself that's unconscious. Scorpios need to go through that on the ice. You need to burn this ice with awareness. Here, there's arrows pointing outside, but also inside, because again, Taurus is the yin and Libra is the yang. The same thing with Mars. Mars would be the inside of Scorpio and the outside of Aries. How do we internalize passion so we can transform and share that with other people? Wherever you have that Venus in Scorpio in your chart, it's going to tell you what area of life do you love, appreciate, and value, and where do you receive these things. Now we're going to give the example of Venus in a specific house based on your ascendant. So in this example over here, let's say your rising sign is in Libra. Libra is the cardinal air sign. Then your Venus would fall in the second house, where you have Scorpio. Of course, it depends on the specific degree, and we have to analyze your chart, but generally, it falls in the second house. What does the second house mean? How we root ourselves. How do we plant the seed for what we want to build? The Earth triplicity shows us how do we evolutionize in our career, based on what we have in the second, sixth, and 10th house. The second is the root of the seed. You're planting the seed. You're taking care of that seed. The sixth house is how do you work on that seed. Again, how do you daily take care of that seed? You water it, you nurture it, and you take care of the necessary details that allow that seed to grow. And then the 10th house is the public peak. It's the highest point in the chart because that's how we are publicly seen. Whatever planet you have in these type of situations, you are putting the energy there. So your Venus being in the second house, you put the energy, aka you value depth, and you show your love, appreciation for things that have to do with mystery, occult, and everything that correlates with psychology. Because again, Scorpio is the unseen, how we transform. You having Venus in Scorpio in the second house means that your value comes from your depth, from going within you and understanding the deepest part of yourself. That's going to give you more emotional acuity. So yeah, that's Venus in Scorpio in a nutshell. You're very deep, and even though your signs are detriment, I believe you're one of the deepest signs. Scorpio as an overall archetype, you're one of the strongest signs that teaches other signs to be deep and not fear emotions, and they have the ability to detect things that other people can't reach because they're too deep in the emotion. That's their gift. So they have to bring to the surface the ability to understand what's unseen. So they have to first do the work within themselves to find their own value. Because Scorpios can always feel like they don't deserve love because they have a lot of trust issues because they've been through many situations where they have been betrayed. So that's what causes them to be in alert. And like a scorpion, water is the element of the ocean. Pisces is swimming in that ocean, it's mutable with that ocean. Scorpio, it's outside of the ocean, it's fixated on that ocean, it's looking at the ocean, it's observing the emotion. And then Cancers initiate a new emotion based on the emotion they're in. They're comfortable in their field because they're ruled by the moon. That's Scorpio Venus in a nutshell. I'm going to keep going with all of the Venus signs and continue my series. Let me know your Venus house placement. Yeah, you're welcome.